Doveva esserci anche Venica, ma non può venire, mi ha detto. Anche non viene? No, è venuto imprevisto. Ok. Prova, 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 prova. Ok. Prova, prova. 1, 2, 3, prova, 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 prova. Che dite? Andiamo a dire danza? Dai, andiamo. Sì, sì, sì. Dove preferisci? Vai. Metto qua. Vai. Poi lascia. Buongiorno a tutti.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this event, masterclass dedicated to a wonderful territory like the COLLIO. And let's start 4:30 o'clock. So, before starting this journey to discover this territory, we are going to taste 8 wines describing the COLLIO. I would like to leave the floor to the president Consorzio. So maybe he can add information. So good afternoon, everybody. And I should not say too much because I'm here to present to you this denomination and that you will taste. And well, actually, you will taste just a few wines because there are so many. And all these wines are produced by micro producers, wine growers. So I don't know, maybe we can start with the slides so that we can start the tasting, I believe. So here, this is the half moon of the consortium. The COLLIO consortium is the first Friuli-based consortium, and this includes the Gorizia province, the Isonzo and Udro rivers. It covers 7,000 hectares and only 1,300 are covered with vines. So we have woods, woods and vines, so therefore it's not an extensive cultivation, and therefore the vines are located in the most appropriate area of the hills. 1,300 hectares of vines, so this is a niche. If we talk about a global level, if we go to somewhere in the world, so let me move here. So in some areas, there are 2-3 producers in 1,300 hectares. So this is a niche, as I said.
Comunque, eccoci.
So here
abbiamo questo, non abbiamo colline molto
the hills are not too high,
and non partiamo neanche alto, cioè diciamo che
and let's say that the lowest area is 60 meters above the sea, and we get to 230 meters above the sea. The microclimate is very special, and we have this ponca, which is a type of sandstone, and this is very peculiar for this wine, for the production of this wine.
Arriviamo,
Beh, effettivamente qui c'è la prima parte crocevia, effettivamente da noi sono passati tutti, nei secoli qualsiasi guerra è passata da noi, nei secoli qualsiasi persona volesse entrare
who came here
in Italia entrava dalle nostre
because
parti,
we live in a region which is very close to the border, and therefore obviously also the First World War and the Second World War which were very cruel, I mean.
Un territorio fondamentalmente che ha
and this is a territory which is very old, ancient, and I believe those amphoras were discovered, if I remember well, yes, at Aquileia, Aquileia is 20 kilometers from Collio, and so this was a Roman port where the presence of wine was given by the territory, because vines were cultivated on the hills, not on land, because the terroir was not suitable in terms of the quantity of water. And so this means that in any case, the Aquileia port was loading the wines coming from our hills. And so let's talk about the climate, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So this is one of the most important factors characterizing Consorzio in the glass. This is a terroir which is surrounded by the Alps, and the climate gives a ventilation and makes the vines cultivated more easily, and also with regard to the treatments, of course, this facilitates the whole process of winemaking. Yes, of course. The Alps, with the cold winds coming from the north, we have the Adriatic Sea mitigating the climate, and then we have the Carso Mountains with the Deborah wind. So we have this mix of factors which provides us with the great advantages, I should say, in terms of climate. And also this year, we were lucky enough, we had rainfalls in two specific moments. This helped us to save the vines and save the grapes. So, despite the drought. And with regard to terroir, so the terroir is a term used very frequently. Well, of course, this is not only the soil. Yes, of course, we will talk about the ponca, and we will have a slide, but obviously the climate and the man had to give it his interpretation of the nature, of course, enhancing the terroir in question. And we've seen the climate, favorable climate, presenting both currents make it less humid, thanks to the beneficial effect of the Adriatic Sea, and the Alps around the wine cultivations, and the ponca. Yes, is a compressed sandstone coming from the ocean, and of course then we have an area which is darker colored, and in contact with the air it breaks down, and this is called a fish in English. This is very rare. There is a presence in France. Well, I invite you to go there, because you can understand the uniqueness of this territory. Ponca, you find it in the vineyards, and it's very visible, and it represents that surplus. And the ponca, you will feel it in the glass, because we are going to taste the wines, and the wines will best narrate about the territory. And this will be explained through these mineral notes. Minerals, well, maybe this is an abused term. And Costanza Fregoni, when I was attending the course, minerals provide that acid, salty factors with this dichotomy between the salt-oriented and the acid approach. And so we have these two characteristics that are very much enhanced here. But I'm not going to tell you more, because we taste it in the glass. We will talk about this while we are tasting. Well, if you do not feel this, well, you have to come wineries, because the more the wines are aged, are vintage, the more this factor is
Ecco qua infatti
enhanced.
c'è una slide che
And
va un
here,
po' a
this
esplicare qual è
slide
la particolarità
explains
della ponca. Ma io mi collego un attimo al
the
discorso
key
di
characteristics
affinamento delle
of
bottiglie, poi
ponca.
è una cosa in cui
So,
torneremo
with regard to
quando daremo il via alle danze con i calici.
the
Io credo
aging
che
of the
un
wine,
territorio si
well,
possa
in
esplicare attraverso una sorta di
a
due
territory
linee
can be
rette, no? Una
explained
linea retta è un
through
po' la storia che
two
ha,
lines,
ed è quello
two
che abbiamo
straight
visto molte volte. Un
lines,
calice ha una
and this
storia
is the
tale che va ben
history. And
oltre
in
5
fact,
minuti
a
in cui noi ci
glass
dedichiamo
has a history that
adesso. E
goes
qui abbiamo
beyond the
detto
5 minutes
parliamo
that we
comunque dei
dedicate.
romani, passando per il
And so from
Medioevo e
the
arrivando
Romans
fino
to the
ai giorni
Middle
nostri,
Ages
attraverso
to
anche delle
current
guerre
days, and
fondamentalmente.
through
E quella
also
è una
the
linea retta.
wars. And
L'altra
this is
linea
a
retta
straight
che va a
line.
esplicare
The
proprio il
other
territorio
straight
è
line
quanto
the
durare quel
territory
vino
is
in
the
un calice, in una bottiglia,
duration,
scusate.
how long
La
that
sua
wine can remain in the
conservabilità, come
glass.
andrà a
So
cambiare.
its
Vi posso assicurare che
preservability, how
sono
it can
vini,
change.
e li ho assaggiati perché sono
Obviously,
stato in da loro
so
qualche mese
I
fa, comunque
went
attraverso
there and I
più
visited
degustazioni con
them. I
bottiglie
had
anche
various
âgées
tasting sessions
fondamentalmente,
also
e
with the
la
Age
possibilità di
bottles,
conservazione, di
and the
come va a
possibility
cambiare, di
of
come resta
preserving it,
integro un
how it changes,
e
how it
l'altra linea
remains
che si specchia con
unaltered,
la
and the
storia.
other
Quindi
line
la storia
that
di un
mirrors
territorio
with the
attraverso, se
history. So the
vogliamo,
story of the
alla
territory
possibilità di conservare una
through
determinata
the
bottiglia
possibility of
davvero per tanti anni. E
preserving
vi sottolineerà di come può
for
rimanere un
long
vino
years.
integro. Ha
And
ancora
this
giocato sulla parte
remains an
salina,
integer
non ancora
wine,
terziarizzato, quindi
not
ancora giocato tutto su quella che è la frutta fresca,
not
la
yet
floralità,
tertiarized,
l'integrità
and
stessa.
the integrity
Tant'è che si
comes
consiglia
to the
sempre, se si fanno gli
forefront.
acquisti,
And
prenderne
in
sempre
fact,
il doppio, di modo
when you
che
buy
mano a
it, you
mano una
have
persona
to
può
buy
sentire un po' come
twice
sta
the
andando quella
quantity in
bottiglia,
order
come
to
sta andando a
understand
cambiare.
how the wine changes over time.
Ora direi di andare sulla prossima slide.
So let's
Se
continue with the
parte
slide.
Ok, beh, c'è qualche immagine, non so
And
se
here
vogliamo
we have
raccontare
a few
qualcosa delle foto qui
images,
presenti.
so maybe we can say
Qui
something.
abbiamo la ponca e
So
vediamo
here,
la
this is a
stratificazione.
ponca, and you
Abbiamo
see
una
the
presenza molto
layering,
forte anche di
and
fossili,
there
o
is a
grandi,
strong
generalmente
presence of
abbastanza piccoli, non
fossils.
parliamo di dinosauri, ma
We're
comunque
not
le conchigliette le
talking
troviamo
about
abbastanza.
dinosaurs, but
E
shells.
questi strati
And you have
si
these
sbriciola, cioè,
layers, and you see
non è
how
che ha
it
una
breaks
consistenza della
down.
roccia molto
So
dura, col
it's
caldo e
not
col
a
freddo,
hard
ha
rock,
questo,
and
tende a sbriciolarsi.
of course it tends to down.
Voi vedete che la parte superiore
And you
è
see
molto
that
più
the upper
piccola,
part
c'è
is
questa componente
smaller,
mista argilla sabbia che si
with the
libera
sand, clay,
effettivamente
and
dalla roccia.
limestone, creating a balance.
Super, abbiamo detto un territorio che
So
si va a
here,
raccontare
vineyards.
specialmente con le sue varietà
So
bacca
here we
bianca, con una
have
piccola presenza anche di uva bacca rossa.
we
Tra l'altro
have
la cosa bella del Collio che mi ha stupito quando sono stato comunque a
white
trovarvi, al di
berries
là
and
di
red
quello che avevo letto
berries,
sui libri, è proprio questa
and
bella
we
integrazione che
have
c'è
this
tra
beautiful
varietà
integration
autoctone del
between
Collio
local
e
varieties
varietà
of COLLIO
internazionali.
and
Quindi c'è
international
questa
varieties,
commistione, se
vine
vogliamo, tra
varieties.
appunto
So we
quello
have
che viene
this
lì fuori, quello che
mix,
invece
something coming
quello che è
from
normale,
abroad, and
purtroppo
then we
quando
have
parliamo
the
di
local
varietà
vine
internazionali ormai
varieties.
possiamo
So
per
COLLIO
certi versi quasi top,
can also
visto
be
i tanti anni
considered
di
very
coltivazione,
much
di presenza
local,
nelle
even if
stesse
it
del
uses
territorio.
also
Effettivamente il nostro
international
territorio
wine varieties. So our territory stems from has a German origin, and in fact we have international vine varieties are strong, and in fact we have
a dire la verità non ci sono neanche tutti.
they're not all listed here.
Sì, manca ancora qualcosina. E difatti vediamo la sicuramente degli
So
autoctoni che
we
sono
have the local ones
anche se
growing,
Friulano nel tempo
and
ha
maybe
perso un
the
po' di
Friulano vine variety, the Ribolla, Cristiana is growing, Piccolit as well, but this is due to the fact that this is part of the wines used for desserts or end of meal, which there's a decreasing trend, but Piccoli
ha perso molto appeal anche
lost
l'enorme costo
its appeal also because of the high costs of production. This is a vine variety which, you only have
Dove ci sarà secondo lei la crescita in
you only
quale
have
varietà?
is per grape. So, and where do you see growth? Well, I believe the local vine variety, Malvasia and Ribolla, are growing definitely. And we also have Pinot Bianco, and this is the classical wine that we wine specialists like, but consumers prefer Chardonnay. And definitely Riesling and Müller-Thurgau are going down, are still there, but I don't think that in the past years Riesling has been vinified. So yes, because we have local vine varieties and international vine varieties, which maybe have more history behind. Yes, Riesling is a wine with a very high mineral content, with a savory taste. This acidity is more, so therefore we have a very pleasant wine, but the identity of the territory is not there. And so when you order a Riesling, you expect high acidity and a savory taste, but instead you receive something softer. And so and here, this is a slide that explains what we will taste in the glass. So essentially, we have very precise characteristics that are narrated through this saline approach, and also the idea of the producer comes to the forefront, and more and more we see the importance of the patience of keeping the bottle in the cellar, making the difference. Do you want to add anything? Well, we produce wines because we want people to drink wine. Of course, we don't want consumers to keep the wine bottle in the cellar. Well, yes, okay, this is good to understand how these wines can be preserved, but we are aware that we have a territory that allows us to produce quality wines that can last time. And this is what our territory can give. Our territories, in other territories, you can produce wines that can age longer. Okay, let's continue. I believe we now come to the first wine. So there's a mix between local international vine varieties, and we see what the territory can communicate, and this can be expressed through tactile expressions and olfactory sensations. And what we will do today, apart from the fact that we are going to taste all the wines from also an emotional perspective, so we are not going to analyze all the technical details, but this type of tasting session is emotional. So we will taste the ancient Burgundy, and the tasting was more tactile than chemical and olfactory, meaning. So at the chemical level, we can experience the molecules less tactile on the palate. So the wines will talk very well through the palate, the sensations I've been talking about, given by the territory. So we will understand while drinking this wine, we will concentrate on the palate, because the palate will represent the key for understanding these wines. not only the wines, but also the site. Yes, sure. Yes. And we see already the reflections, very beautiful to be looked at in the glass. And so we also have an area where we have very special maceration. Yes, so there are wine growers who work on maceration. Yes, there is even more. And so this is a small territory with many small wine growers and wine producers. And here we see the signs of renovation of the companies, and also there is much experimentation as well, and attention. Well, the wineries, so the vineyards are the gardens of the wine growers. So therefore, it's the entire life of the vine growers. And so out of 6 million of bottles produced in the COLLIO region, 3 companies produce 500,000, another 5, 250,000. And so all of the rest is below 100,000. So therefore, small wineries, and you know this, right? Yes, in fact, I know it. And if we are friends, and if we are not friends, know with whom we can enjoy a cup of coffee, because we are all there, we are all friends, and this is beautiful, and we appreciate also gin tonic cocktail. So thank you. Again, the word to you to present the consortium. So here, the consortium was established in 1964, and the consortium was established when the producers gathered together and wrote down the specifications. They presented it to the ministry, and they got the approval in 1964. And in 1968, they received the recognition of the denomination controlled origin denomination. And this was the second step, and then the first brand, the blue, and the yellow is the color of our territory. To date, the consortium applies the law 94. We have 94% of the territory member of the consortium. So you had the first wine served because it needs to breathe a little bit. So since the temperature must be precise, it's not 4-6. It should be 8, 10, and even more. So don't be afraid to leave it there. We will taste it in a short time. And so this is not a very large consortium, but we do as many activities as possible, and we progress. So with regard to the logo, well, this is very beautiful in terms of colors. And so when these bottles are put horizontally, you can understand that this is a COLLIO bottle immediately. Yes, because we have the of the COLLIO logo on 70% of the bottles marketed on top. And in the past 10 years, we have also patented a shape of a bottle, this one, which is increasing now. We are reaching 2 million bottles, and 1/3 of the production is bottled here. And this is a technical bottle featuring advantages, and it also contains the crest here marked on the neck of the bottle. And the bottles are here, so if you wanted to look, take a look, well, of course, you can take a look later on with no problems. So here we have a few 270 companies, 174 members, 116 bottlers, and 17 wine varieties. Well, they narrate very well the mosaic and the fragmentation of the various territories and subzones, all under the same denomination, under the same territory. And yes, this is a very large territory with a mix of history and culture, because we are at a crossroads between Italy and Slovenia, with a very strong Friuli-based tradition. And in any case, we all work in the same direction to obtain the most from our territory. So, Collio Rosso, Collio Bianco is we have a grape including all the wine varieties, and we have the same cru. And even if the wine growers are small, we have micro zones that have different characteristics. And in the last period, we are experiencing an increase in from local grapes and I will also mention Tokai. I do apologize. We still say Tokai, but it's Friulano. So if I say Tokai, remember that this means Friulano, from Friuli region. And so because at the beginning, the consortium was first established, Collio Bianco included vine varieties. These are 3 vine varieties. And since there was not much appeal and it was liberalized, so this is how it changed. Sorry, but I cannot hear the question being asked. Collio Bianco, we are still evaluating how to work, but for the time being, we don't know. Historic and classic are terms that can be used according to the specification given by the ministry. And also here, we have the values that were explained by the president. So low impact, low environmental impact for the bottle. Reduced mediamente basse con una tenuta ideale. Reduced cork, innovative design, high quality cork. But the thing is that our objective is the shape represents the territory. Maybe you can like it or not. Of course, this is opinable. In any case, this provides a recognition and recognizability. And this is the capsule, and this is something that we use across the entire range. So here we were talking about sustainability for the bottle, but also for the vine vineyard. And so here we have this small problem, you know. Very frequently, we give many things for granted. And I told you, there are so many small companies. And we do the treatments in person. We go in the field in person. So therefore, it's not our interest to live in an environment which is not healthy. Personally, I live 2 meters from my vineyards, and my daughters can play there. And so, therefore, when we talk about sustainability and what we do about sustainability, this is a natural choice, even more. So, each winery a home. And when we wake up in the morning, we see also rose outside. I mean, it's real nature. And it's true that the is growing, but we start from the fact that in the first place, our territory does not have invasive agriculture. So we do not have large extensions, we do not have large industries. Come and visit it. So it's better to come and visit. It's a 3-hour train journey. And actually, so living in such an environment, any additional action is okay, but we do not strictly need to carry out special things, meaning many companies got the SPQN certification for environmental sustainability. You know what the effort was? The additional register, because we have written down what we've been for 30 years. So now we pay for the control. Control is very strict, and we got the certification. That's something we've been doing for 30 years, something we had already implemented in the past. Clear. And so you're being served the third glass, and so you see that the 3 glasses are different, very different. So also visually, there are differences. So we are still here. And so now let's taste the first wine.
Telecomandino. Poi andiamo avanti, ci torno dopo su questo, va bene? Ci torniamo avanti, ci torno dopo su questa slide.
So we will talk about this slide later.
Ok. No, solo che se qualcuno può. Sì, no, volevo andare sulla slide, il primo calice e poi ci torno.
So the first glass and then maybe we go slide. Is it okay?
Eccoci qua, perfetto.
Yeah.
Lascio questa, che magari è più comodo. Allora, signori, direi di
So here, let's start with the first glass, and then we will go through these slides. We have a limited time, so we have to hurry up. So, and then questions also now, while you're tasting, whatever curiosity you might have, observation. Well, this should also be an interactive chat. After the masterclass, we will be here. So if you want to ask me questions, ask us questions, so we are here. So we have 3 glasses with 3 colors, very different colors. Let's start with Humar. This is Ribolla Gialla, COLLIO 2020. And the color is vibrant, so gold, antique gold, very luminous in a certain way, reflecting light. And the olfactory part, so here we can smell fresh fruits, actually picked up fruits, papaya, mango, melon, watermelon, and so these tropical fruits, summery fruits. The nose talks about summer, and this comes with these floral notes. So a freshly cut flower, chamomile.
Una parte fattiva piacevole per l'appunto,
and also linden. And so here we have white pepper in the background. So the olfactory part is very soft. There's a summery notes, fruits and flowers. There's a few spices in the background. So let's concentrate on what we were saying at the beginning. So now let's concentrate on the tactile part.
Palato che
Palate.
dà una disamina. In primis, la prima cosa che salta
in the first place, the very first part you notice is this saline part, and this is something you will notice in all the glasses that we will taste. So this represents the backbone of the glass, and this is the key component of this wine. And then, of course, this also features a pyramid. It comes very thin, and then it enlarges with the center mouth, with these sensations that we were also feeling through the olfactory part. So with banana, mango, papaya, passion fruit, white pepper in the background, the flowers, fresh flowers, chamomile. And the palate is very juicy, calling the summer season, and with a beautiful dynamic part at the beginning, shy, and then becoming increasingly more and more full-bodied, as if it were a pyramid. A very pleasant glass, very pleasant wine to be very pleasant during the meal. And for the saline content, they call for food. So, for example, here I would see tortelli with pumpkin or in broth, and even if we are approaching the fall and winter season. So this is a very pleasant wine, tasty, inviting. And obviously, if you wanted to say something, so please feel free to do it. So this
non morde nessuno.
Assolutamente.
We do not bite.
No, mia figlia dice sempre fa paura ma non fa male.
My daughter tells everybody people are afraid of me, but I do not hurt anybody. So, and now maybe, I do not remember whether this is yours. So now we have the pleasure to have here the producer. So I leave the floor to the producer to tell about the wine, the second wine. Thank you, Stefano. Well, first of all, good afternoon. My name is Nicola Primozic, and I represent Primozic in the fifth generation. And I go back to what David was saying, talking about the fact that we are all families in the COLLIO area. Every home is a wine producing wines for generations. So the fifth generation on COLLIO and the third generation under the label Primozic since 1964. It was founded by my grandfather, Silvestro Primozic, and we are one of the most, one of the oldest wineries in the COLLIO. So we have the number one bottle, Doc COLLIO #1 on Tokai label. So, and today we have Ribolla Gialla, and we can see the difference in the color. This Ribolla Gialla is rated, and in this case we have a 1 month maceration with the peels with uncontrolled temperature, 2 years of aging in large Slavonia wood barrels, and the most interesting part wine is as you feel it. So this is a bottle that, as the majority of the COLLIO bottles, may be considered as an investment. So you take a vintage a year and you keep it in the cellar, the wine evolves continuously, and we are talking about white wine treated as red wine, so the aging potential is high. The color that you see is the color that we receive when we are in the we are harvesting. And so in the first, we feel the minerals, and also in the second, we can find the same thing, but according to a different key. And of course, it keeps the key characteristics. And this is the philosophy of the macerated. So as an enhancement of the peel of the wine, without cleaning it and without detracting its elegance. And so you see that we the same color as the peel because we harvest the ribolla gialla after the red. So this is almost a late harvest, late September or October. So the peel starts taking on a golden color, shade, a higher sugar content, and therefore also the alcohol content is higher. With the maceration, first of all, we have the color with the ribolla gialla. We noticed, and well, this is an ancient tradition in Yugoslavia because we found documents talking about macerated ribolla in Vienna because this was under the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And then maceration was continued in the 1800, macerating grapes to keep the duration of the wine longer. So, and then technology changed, and so maceration is, well, we have maceration, so we have a higher acidity, and we can also talk about an unusual tannin perception for the white wine, but still with the elegance, with the ribolla elegance. And this is our philosophy. I believe that with regard to the description, I'm done, but Stefano will expand on the olfactory part. He will find better words. Oh, well, your description is perfect. So after David and Stefano, I'm not so much, I'm not such a good speaker. Well, actually, you explained very well the wines, and well, I would concentrate on the visual part, which is inviting. Bright and the olfactory part is completely different from the first one, and if you smell it, you feel completely different things. And the first thing, this is citrus fruits, strong fragrance, maybe more bergamot than orange, and more intense than classical orange. And also I smell other things. It is a multifaceted nose with the spices, oriental spices, cardamom and cumin, and also oriental spices and coriander, and also hay, black tea, English breakfast tea, just to give you an idea. So the olfactory part recalls of lacquer paints, and the palate even more explains the identity of the territory. So these two wines are completely different in the way they can be interpreted. So they interpret the territory be it an orange wine or a classical wine, and both narrate about the territory. The first thing you would notice in terms of tactile expression is this tannic expression that usually we do not see in a feel in a white wine. But to give you an idea, I don't know whether you drink tea. If you drink tea, first infusion, when you use the tea bag and you have this slight perception of a tannic, astringent feeling. And the same thing is here. We have the citrus fruit combined with red fruits, so maybe pomegranate and red and floral as if so flowers dried in the basket, so violets, and so we have this spicy note recalling coriander and cumin. So also we have this saline perception. So maceration is not to be taken for granted, because apart from the hand that you still need to have, but if you have it in a territory which is not providing this saline perception, the maceration comes in a different way. But the risk is that at the very end of the tasting, you may feel this tiredness, but instead here, not true. Sometimes, and if you see the recognition, and if you understand the recognizability of the territory, for example, I attend different courses and we drink blind. So when I have this wine, I always say either COLLIO or not COLLIO. COLLIO, then you get there, and then maybe you can also recognize the producer. If it's not a COLLIO, then it's very difficult to understand the origin, and not because of the lack of identity of the producer, but because of this saline perception. And this is the important thing, understanding the tactile notes, the saline part, tactile part that dries out the palate, and the color that is still important, because this is another wine where we can have different sensations. But what I want to do with you today, all these Burgundy wines, we can interpret them more from an olfactory perspective, and because also there we can discuss it, but apologize. Well, the beauty is the fact that this wine, you drink this wine and then another glass is inviting you next, and so wine is like a beverage, and if you don't drink it, this is a problem. So at the beginning we have something young for the first course, and the second one we have a more layered wine, maybe to be drunk also with meat or a tartare meat, so also recalling the same color, red with orange.
Io non sono d'accordo
So I do not agree with you. You demonstrated that this is true, so come here with a tartare plate, or otherwise. No, I'm joking. Well, I would like to say that the peel of the ribolla gialla gives this sweetness, this tannic perception, and the maceration adds up. And so we have this evolution, very special evolution. And you can understand the reason why we had these wines served in advance, because if you smell them, you understand now that they communicate more. It's like, when you wake up, you're in the morning, you do not run 100% immediately. And the same thing here. You need some time, so it needs to stretch. It needs a little bit of oxygen. And the same holds here. So we have more oxygen, giving more to the narration of these wines. So let's start with the third wine, Taurus.
Ottica della pronuncia corretta, quindi fondamentalmente azienda di Novali.
So this is based in Novali, established in the 20th century. Well, all these wineries have been continued, have been passed over from generation to generation, and they come from the vine growing, and in the past century they specialized in wine production. They produced wine just for themselves or just for third parties, counts, barons, aristocrats, etc. So you see, visually, so maybe this is a little bit more yellow.
No, attenzione, il fatto che si vada a ritroso
so going back, so this is still very bright color, but yet more yellow, I was saying. And so here it says joy with this yellow and gold. And yellow hay. So let's see the olfactory part. Olfactory part, also here we change register and we come again to fruits being in the forefront. Fruits concentrating on yellow juicy fruits like apricot, peach, and we have also floral notes, freshly cut flowers, like for example elderberry, and also here so very joyful notes, fresh notes, inviting, with like a match note. So we have this sulfurous part, rocky, the graphite, pencil, to give you an idea. I should congratulate her with the interpreter. I mean, you're going so fast. Sorry.
Ok, perfetto. Andrò un poco più piano, vi chiedo venia.
Yes, I will.
No, hai ragione perché ogni tanto poi mi devo...
Yes, in fact, so passionate. So my problem is that I'm getting used to talking slowly. Sometimes I have, in contests, you only have a few minutes and you have to say many things. And saying many things in just a couple of minutes, of course, you have to go fast. And I'm getting used to, okay, I won the contest, so I can talk slower. Also, the interpreter may drink a glass of wine, so to keep the pace.
Ora andiamo a vedere cosa ci...
So let's see what the palate tells us.
Ora, sentite come è un vino di tensione, teso, terso,
there is a tension.
La parte salina
the saline part is very much explicated here, and it combines with acidity, dancing between acid and saline. And in the palate, you have a very linear weave, subtle, thin. And again, there is tension, and where we find always this sensation of graphite, of sulfur, fruits fresh fruits and ripe fruits. So drink it, and you produce very much saliva. And this is typical of COLLIO because, again, these elements call for food. So, for example, veal, all the cutlet, the Dubianska meat, which is a typical recipe of your territory. So again, this wine calls for food through the flowers. There's tension and dynamism. This is a dynamic because we have salinity, acidity, and the fruit of the flower. So very beautiful. And this is the third wine. And so we have mineral wines. So I know that mineral is an abused term, a scientific term, but in terms of communicability, well, of course, mineral means acid and saline, and this is the meaning I give in this masterclass. You should think that Friulano can be drunk only twice in a day, during and after the meal. It opens your stomach and cleans after the meal, cleans the digestion after the meal. You can drink a Friulano, a wine, as an aperitif.
Ti trovi con due amici, cosa beviamo?
So you with friends and you can drink Friulano. And starting from there, of course, you can have other things, but the starting point is always a Friulano wine. And even if at the beginning of a meal you have the ribolla, because this is our aperitif, but for as a daily wine, we have the Friulano wine. And then it's the aperitif of the aperitif. So we have an aperitif to prepare for another aperitif. So 24 hours round.
Noi beviamo sempre moderatamente, assolutamente. Poi moderatamente.
So we drink moderately, and
il vino
the wine
deve essere bevuto
is
sempre in
and
compagnia.
must be drunk in company. The problem is that maybe you meet 11:30 with a friend, then and you have another friend coming, then you order another one for the fourth, the fifth, and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, restaurant close. And so you drink it on special occasions. Then I give very much importance to any event. Sorry, the interpreter cannot translate because I'm not receiving the question in the mic. The lady is not using the mic.
Allora, è un'uva autoctona che
she was talking about a Tokai. So this is a local vine variety, and I had a Sauvignon vineyard, which was completely different. So the rest of the families of Sauvignon with a very old, with all the characteristics, unique characteristics. From the documents we have, Frumin, also called Tokai, comes from the Tokai plants that started from Consorzio. So the countess went to a wedding with the 3 Tokai plants, and she planted them in the Tokai area, region. And so this is the reason why it was called the Tokai. So therefore we were, since the European Union gives more importance to the name of a vine variety than the territory, so we were forced to eliminate the Tokai denomination, Tokai name. This comes from Tukais in Sloveno. So this type, so maybe Sauvignon Asp is, yes, also maybe to Sauvignon. But this is a fine variety that combined very well with the Ponca, and therefore also combining the characteristics of the territory of the Collio. And therefore we had a vine variety which is new, which adapted to the territory, becoming changing from Sauvignon Sky to Tokai. So this is the story, and this is now defined Friulano, and this is okay. And we produce, maybe we producers could not come to an agreement. So the first part was to take out the K and the J. So at the beginning of the 60s, it was spelled Tokaj. Then in the 80s, we put C and I, and then in 2010 or 2011, I do not remember, we were forced to eliminate the Tokai definition. We could not come to an agreement, and politically we eliminated Tokai and we put Friulano, which was already on the labels. It was a politically lost producers to do. The Tokai region had nothing to do. It was just a political choice, decision. The fourth wine.
Allora, siamo con Venica. Quindi
This is Venica.
Negli anni 30 del Novecento e oggi sicuramente uno.
A winery established in 1930s.
Andiamo con il loro friulano, per appunto il Ronco delle Cime, l'annata è la 2019.
The year was 2019, and I would like to point out that many of these producers we're presenting today, well, I tasted vintage wines, and they hold very well. We are tasting wines that are very young, but you can experience it. And the idea is, so if you find bottles of vintage bottles, then you can have a very beautiful experience. So here we have a gold color, gold shade, with this very bright color. And in addition, well, we have very soft notes, honey, chestnut honey, propolis, and we have also this idea of
di pietra focaia.
Of flint.
Diceva che qua
flint.
Si comincia a sentire un poco di ponca, quindi
and we can start tasting the ponca, the territory, the soil, and in fact here, because we have in the first 2-3 years we have fruits in the wine, and then they tend to mineralize, and then we have the ponca being enhanced. And yes, so we have this very elegant flint that adds complexity and a layering, in addition to propolis. And of course, we have This is warmer fruits, so mature fruits, peach, citrus fruits that tends to orange, not bergamot, and so like sanguinella orange, and the notes talk about aromatic flavors, and if we want, we have something spicy like ginger. I like this fruit, propolis, and this austere part, edgy part of flint, and this ginger part, spicy part.
Palato in linea con quanto
Palate is in line with the nose because the tactile part is a dichotomy between the mature fruits and the asperity of this saline part, which is emerging, surfacing through these chalk, flint notes.
Ha fatto legno? Non mi pare sia solo acciaio il ronco delle cime.
Oak barrel? No, only steel. It's the terroir that surfaces. The terroir more than the treatment. Yes, it recalls the second wine without the maceration.
Cioè, a dire la verità, quando correggimi se sbaglio, ma generalmente
generally, when you have macerations, you use oak to reduce the tannins that you have from the peel. And I don't know exactly whether this also has oak, maybe a tiny part, but maybe used for the tanning, but not give structure to the product. But well, I believe this is the whole terroir ratio. So we're not talking about 11 degrees wines. 14.
È normale, cioè diciamo che noi è 13,5-14.
Normal wines have 13.5 or 14
diciamo la ribolla gialla è una delle varietà meno
percent of alcohol content normally. So here,
meno 12,5, 13.
so this is 12.5.
No, beh, sulla ribolla gialla se fa solo
So ribolla giallo in steel, only
là.
steel, yes, we have that alcohol volume. So if it's only steel, you do not have structure, you do not have that persistent alcohol content. So it's interesting to also note the difference with maceration, and in that case you have also higher content, and if you only use must, of course, the alcohol content is different. So for example, so you have the center palate with this wine, and in the first sipping it seems a diesel engine, and it rates with the development of materials, especially in the center palate, through these flint, flowers, fruits, through these sensations that narrate very well what we have in the terroir and in the glass. And it's true that each producer should give its filter and knowledge, and years the wine comes with the peculiarities of the territory. So let's go with the fifth wine. In this case,
Nona Draga, San Floriano,
this is Nona Draga from San Floriano, established in 1992, and
No. Basta, non vuole rimanere venica poi. No, in realtà è rimasta. Sì, sì. Tanto inizio a parlarne.
So,
allora, signori, vediamo come, ecco qua, perfetto, la malvasia. Quindi qui
Malvasia.
per la prima
So
volta
here for
oggi
the first
sulla malvasia,
time,
per l'appunto.
we have a Malvasia.
Parte cromatica,
And here you see the color is very elegant, talks about youth, this these very beautiful
ripeto, ancora in gioventù a livello visivo, molto elegante.
strawberry
come
reflections, and factory part is even different. So again, the Malvasia. So the Malvasia name derives from an ancient Greek port, Malvasia, and they were shipping wine from the Aegean Sea everywhere in the world. But this Malvasia is Istrian Malvasia. Yeah. So the plants were not called according to their origin. So today we have approximately 350 Malvasia all over the world. Lipari Malvasia is the most renowned, but the only addition is the fact that they all started off from the same port, but they do not share the same plant. So let's smell the generosity of Malvasia. It's very, the fragrance is very strong, and not even need to put your nose into the glass to smell these rose petals, red rose powder. And maybe the ladies can help me in recognizing powder. Beauty products. We have notes recalling apricot, fresh apricot. And we have notes recalling majoran, rosemary, thyme, so Mediterranean herbs. And in this case, we have the Adriatic Sea, but this is exactly what we can smell. So very perfumery nose. It's like going into a perfume shop and smelling the fragrancing. But very delicate, very precise. We do not have an aroma that emerges over the others. We have all small aromas like a bunch of flowers. And it's like a bunch of flowers, and you have the red rose emerging, but we have various flowers in one single bunch, and you can smell this and many aromas. And let's see the tactile part.
Intanto sentiamo che lo spettro aromatico in questo caso qua olfattivo
so the factory part surfaces, and we have these floral notes, rose, iris, elderberry, and oriental herbs, and marjoram, santoreggia, and all these herbs. And we also have the saline part, which is slightly below the aromatic part, still emerging, surfacing over the years, still present, knocking on the door, saying, I'm also here with this cover of aromas, with these fragrances, and also this beauty enhancing the sip. And enjoyable sip for sure. So for for us with bread and yes. So Tokai, this is good.
Effettivamente vedevamo anche già dei numeri di prima, no? Il friulano
ready for drinking. So Friulano is a prince of the local wines with 15%. The others are surfacing, including Malvasia, behind Ribolla Gialla, well behind Ribolla Gialla. Also because we are looking for wine varieties that are no longer exaggerating on the substance. We have wines which we had problems with in terms of substance, and the Ribolla Gialla is what enables us to produce better wines as compared to Pinot Grigio, which comes to 14.5. Malvasia instead is a vine variety that tends to have a rather high alcohol content, even if Draga has maintained a very good level. So can you imagine a COLLIO Malvasia ethnic oriental recipes? So this Malvasia may be combined with this food very well. This is my vision, this is my opinion. So if I were to think of a combination with the food, with, of course, also Italian recipes, with fish.
Il nostro territorio molto spesso è stato criticato per le tante varietà in cui coltiviamo.
Or monkfish. So some journalists in criticizing us, in trying to criticize us, said that they are lucky enough that can have everything. Yes, we have a wine for every recipe. But what is beautiful here is that also when you drink it blind, Tokai, Friulano, whatever, again, also we can feel it here. And so today you're going to have your opinion after this masterclass, but I believe that maybe we can also discuss how the terroir comes up, talking about freshness, saline content, then also play down through minerals with the tactile part, but still we have this terroir in a different way, but still we have the terroir. And with all the filters applied through knowledge, but I believe this is not the case. We haven't got the time. There are filters, but what emerges is always the identity of the territory through filters that are given by the vintage, by the vine variety, but still the salinity is always there. This is played down in a different way at the tactile level.
Ponca, clima, terroir. Sì, assolutamente deriva da quello.
From the terroir, from the ponca, yes. I don't want to. So this means let's taste the wines and understand what they narrate. So COLLIO, yes, of course, we can call it. So COLLIO is a territory which is very pleasant and so if our ancestors were planting vineyards, were having vineyards, cultivating vineyards, well, they did it because of a reason. So therefore, I believe that they could really. This was not just a trend because you had to do that or this, but with empire, well, essentially research.
Era quella di
So let's try and plant one and see what comes next. Whatever they planted, they were successful. An example. So it's normal that, well, nobody sits at the restaurant and would and asks for a traminer and asks a COLLIO traminer, but you should taste it, and you will see that the people will be very much surprised. We are abandoning it because this is not our vine variety, but we have a terroir that enables us to express ourselves at the very levels. And, well, that we do this with white wines, this is something special because enology we started with enology in the 70s and 80s. And in those years, people were drinking only red wine, and instead we had white wine. And so they vine growers were planting red vine varieties, and the red ones were being used where there were difficulties in growing them. So therefore, we had so many fields covered with white grapes and red in the most, let me say, unfortunate areas. So my generation and his generation, his
no, a lavorare, ma esprimersi più che a lavorare, scusatemi il termine, ma la nostra generazione,
so our generation,
trovandosi i vecchi vigneti storici di rosso nelle zone più sfortunate,
found red vine varieties in very large areas, waiting for the plant to grow, waiting for the fruits to be given, and red wine.
Bianco, la pianta incomincia a dare bene dopo il 11° anno di anzianità.
So the plant becomes truly fruitful after 10 years. So therefore, every time something we have to think of at least pruning, and it takes always approximately 2 years before we can do anything with the production of wines. So therefore, from the first plant being planted. So therefore, and for some reasons, that wine was already old for some people.
Da noi generalmente il grosso esce
So
in primavera,
in time we have the red wine in the first place because the market demands it. But with regard to vintage wines, well, this is a completely different story.
No, comunque quello sulle annate confermo anche perché ho notato una cosa che è appunto un discorso puramente un po' marketing, quello del vino d'annate.
Yes, vintage wine.
Perché tante volte usciamo dei Sauvignon.
Sometimes we have Sauvignon wines or Malvasia wines with a very good structure, balanced, but they still need time. But if you present them as a vintage wine in 2022 and you present a 2020 as vintage wine, no, this is not even asked for. But so, and this is the problem with the vintage wines. And the absurd thing is that we, we come most of the subsequent season, and so I produce a Sauvignon, and our Sauvignon, which is completed in June, is yet ready. So when it comes to the maximum, it's finished. Yes, in fact, and But unfortunately, the markets do have different pave a different direction. That's it.
L'invito è sempre nella possibilità nostra di tenere da parte quelle bottiglie per...
Okay, and so therefore we can also keep the bottles in order to understand how the wine develops over time and how it completes, making that part emerge we've been talking about starting from 4:30. So let's start with the 7th wine, and this is Blasic. In 1920, and we have still a Malvasia from 2019. And so this is an older winery. The last generation is a very young person, and he started bottling with his label, and his was selling grapes. So, and he started marketing a few years ago. So nice to have two Malvasia wines, one after the other, because you can note how different they are. So we are talking about San Floriano, a higher hill, and here this is located in Zegla, in the Cormons municipality. Cormons is the colder part. San Floriano is on top of the hill with the different characteristics. So we have the different characteristics. And we have this olfactory part, which is shyer than the previous one, with this sulfur notes, so almonds and with and hazel. And in 2019 we have the minerals, right? And yes, a sulfur part and flint coming in the forefront over dry fruits. And these notes recall mown grass, so notes that remind me of woods, a flower that has dried out. And so here we have still the integrity, and again, also this Malvasia wine invites us to drink it. And we have also fumé notes, and we have this saline part surfacing. And Malvasia comes also in the second. Before we had the exuberance of the fragrance, and so now the aromatic part comes second after this saline part tension that is with this very narrow sip. The previous one was very large, very voluminous. Instead, here we have a very narrow sip, very linear, and with great tension. Still, saline part, acid part also present, and also needs the bottle to remain in the bottle. So very young wines, when they are very young, they're very, let me say, joyful. And the longer they remain in the bottle, they require time, they evolve, and they require even more time. And this is something that narrates the territory. So they need years to express the concept of the ponca and the terroir. Yes, it took millions of years to come to our territory, to our terroir, and of course, time changes the characteristics. Yes, these are live wines. You want, let me say, taste the banana after 15 years, but the banana is an effect of the fermentation after the bottling, and then it fades away. But in any case, for us specialists, the banana.
Sì, hai messo la banana nella bottiglia, ma è facile metterci la banana nella bottiglia.
It's easy to put a banana in the bottle.
Dato dalla fermentazione.
But this is an effect of fermentation.
Dire quello che ho detto prima, abbiamo la fortuna
we are lucky enough that we have wines that are immediately ready and also last over time. And this is the challenge against other territories. Yes, other territories can produce wines that can last 10 years, but do they keep wines for 10 years in the cellar? Well, you can keep our wine in the cellar for 10 years, and after years, this wine is exceptional. Yes, in fact, these wines are very pleasant, indeed, and in some wines we have more tonka, in some others we have this joyful flavor. And apart his Rebolla, which comes out after 3 years. Yes, now we are going to release the 2018. All the other wines come to the market in the subsequent year. And so all the wines that we drink in 2019 have been marketed 2-3 years. So you can understand the at the beginning, so the starting point. And when you drink it after 2 years, well, you're not going to suffer headache.
Non guido.
Of course, when I drink wine, I do not drive.
Devo approfittare quando non guido.
Assolutamente. Quindi sputacchiera bollita in poche parole. Allora, signore, andiamo sull'ultimo calice così poi lasciamo un attimo di tempo per
the last one, then we have a very short Q&A session.
Ora, sull'aspetto visivo siamo abbastanza in linea, adesso non mi dilungo tanto su quello. Sull'aspetto olfattivo,
so olfactory, the olfactory. So we are Bracco. This is a winery established in 1864.
Non ci vogliono dare la produttrice.
Headed by a female, an entrepreneur, woman entrepreneur, female entrepreneur. So this is Brazzano del Cormon, the warmest hills of the Collio region. Cormons is the very first facade of the hills, going to the sea with no barrier. And then the first part, then getting higher, there is a variation of the temperatures. So the olfactory part, well, the profile, the saline profile, yes, this is clear on the palate, but this saline part is given by capers, salt, olives, also dry tomatoes. So like a pizza, oregano, capers. So recalling the saline part combined with fruits, and in my opinion, fruits is still fresh. So in 2019, so this is turgid, crispy fruits, and have these notes with the zest for the orange, the cocktail, American cocktail. So almost white orange, this very strong fragrance. And this comes with the lime, another citrus fruit. And this is Friulano, Malvasia, and Sauvignon that today has not been given room, but still there is a presence inside in of this eucalyptus and mint and balsam. And so the nose is very elegant, precise, clear. 2019 still fresh, very fruity, and the palate, so still the saliva comes, and rich of tension, and this is an acceleration wine, so it attacks the palate and then it flows, very linear, very dynamic, a wine that is a 100-meter runner, and so there are wines that are slower, there are wines that are much quicker. This is very for the attack of the palate, with the linearity, with the saline part. And I understand I'm going very fast. So, and we have this fume development, flint, saline part in the forefront. I'm telling this for all the wines, but you have all saline, wines. Yes, yes, and I also told them when I was visiting them, and if you come and visit us, well. Yes, it's worth going there. So it's easier. And if you come with a friend who does not drink and can drive, even better.
Questa è l'apoteosi, perché I risultati sono... No, perché abbiamo anche le vespe gialle per girare.
Because we also have the yellow Vespa scooters, but they think that they are free to drive them, but there is a technical problem in recovering the vehicles after the visits to the wineries. So this wine tells a lot about the territory, the Ponca, the bar, and this is a beautiful conclusion of this masterclass, because I believe that we could have an overview of the COLLIO region with the wines aged a little bit, but these are all young wines, and they all still need time. They also for food. Imagine in 10 years what kind of wines these can develop into. If you have questions, don't be shy. In any case, we remain here. And first of all, I would like to thank you for your attention. I would like to thank the staff, the waiters, the sommeliers who served the wine, the interpreter. Thank you. And the president, an applause also for him. And Primozic for his attendance. Thank you.
No, ma una domanda anche volge. Provate a chiedergli cosa li spinge a entrare in questo mondo. È giovane.
So maybe we can ask him the reason why he is willing to enter this world. Because in this field, both in Italy and in the world, so many young people go away. And well, I have two daughters, and they are attending agrarian school. So, and I hope that they will enter my company.
Il traminer, che è l'unica varietà considerata aromatica, non può essere usata all'interno del coglio.
Traminer cannot be used in white Collio.
Sì, il coglio bianco può essere fatto da tutte le altre uve, bianche per il coglio bianco, rosso per il coglio rosso. Del mix.
So I cannot listen to the question, sorry.
Questa libertà è stata fatta
So
nel 90.
this was done in 1996, 1997.
Però di per
However,
sé ci sono state tre pensieri, cioè tre generi di pensiero, uno solo autoctoni, uno con base Chardonnay.
one on the local ones, Chardonnay.
Manca ancora un calice? È possibile?
No.
Ho girato io la slide. Non avanza una bottiglia? No, così avevamo ancora sete. Cioè. No, il rosso superiore no.
No, ok, allora posto. Grazie. Quel dubbio anche a me, mannaggia.
No, ma ci sono ancora qualche domanda?
Questions?
Allora, il batonnage è mantenere le sospensioni delle fece sottili sul vino. Si può fare all'interno o anche all'interno della
ferns, both in wood and steel. The main philosophy
il contenitore neutro
is a neutral container, be it cement or steel, but the presence of wood, or at least for the poncha, is in percentage, but it's not predominating.
L'ultimo vino che avete bevuto è un Coglio Bianco 2000.
The last wine was a white Collio 2019.
Un errore di slide.
No red wine. There was an error in the slide.
E di quello che abbiamo parlato sulle percentuali.
Percentages.
È obbligato a prendere il treno, venire su.
So if you wanted to know the percentages, you go to Bracco and Mrs. Bracco and you ask this. And
Ci prendo 2 giorni.
So a couple of days to do this.
Generalmente le percentuali dell'etichetta non sono scritte.
The percentage is not specified.
Dovrei andare sulla pagina ufficiale del registro elettronico, cosa che tendenzialmente non voglio fare. Generalmente si usa una base molto forte di friulano.
Normally we have a friulano.
50% e poi si
and then
sul rimanente.
You play with the remaining, with the other vine varieties. Since Malvasia is an aromatic vine variety together with the Sauvignon, I believe they use the Friulano the most because
100% Friulano, 25 Malvasia, 25 Sauvignon, 50, 25,
50, 25, 25.
Malvasia, 25.
So 50% Friulano, 5% Sauvignon, 25% Malvasia.
Una maggior percentuale di vino
There is a higher percentage of local vine varieties, and then these are rounded with international.
No, ha aperto la scheda tecnica dell'azienda via internet. Io sono andato a naso, lui è un po' più veloce di me.
No, ci mancherebbe, ho usato il telefono mentre parlava e ho guardato del sito ufficiale dell'azienda. Bene.
No, comunque guardate.
But in any case, the companies, the wine do have open doors. You should not even make a reservation, but please go there. Please go there. And so this is not only an invitation, but this is very important to know more. In the past 2 years, tourism in our region has been growing and growing and growing.
Non lo so il perché, ma quest'anno io ho avuto tutte
colpa vostra?
Bergamo, Brescia, tutti i esami.
Bergamo, Brescia.
Perché anche a noi ci piace bere senza sputacchiere, per quello in realtà.
Because we also like to drink without spittoons.
Bene. Sì, una domanda, prego.
Il Pinot Grigio
Pinot Grigio remains one of the most important wine varieties. We're talking about 30%, and it is important. 30% of not bottles of vine varieties, because Pinot Grigio deviates into other denominations, and we can go down. And in terms of COLLIO, DOC, we can have DOC Friuli or IGT of the Venezia, and therefore many times you have to do this for larger markets. But Pinot Grigio remains one of the most important part of COLLIO.
Pensare che il Sauvignon che è secondo all'11%. Ma diciamo che questo lega molto.
Well, let's say that this is so choosing Pinot Gris means that you have to find markets where COLLIO was presented over the years. Pinot Grigio has always been a passepartout for the American market, German market, so two fundamental markets for our territory. However, the presence of Pinot Gris dates back to the beginning of the 19th century.
Grazie per le domande. Grazie ancora.
Grazie a tutti.
Thank you.
Per il momento ti ho disattivato il microfono.
Ok. Vediamo se riesco a